Hello, people. It is Friday, the 5th of September, 2025, and I'm coming to you live from northern Israel, in a country that I have chosen to speak about for this video, titled Israel Guards the Gates and Lifts the Boats. What do I mean by that? Well, if you understand metaphors, you'll get it. It's pretty simple, really. Israel is the last bastion of democracy and Western values, as they are known, also known as Judeo-Christian values, also known as Judeo values, also known as Abrahamic values. And it is the last bastion of those values against the onslaught of the horde of jihad that wishes to destroy and conquer the entire world. Now, that's not hyperbole. That is a provable fact. That is, demonstrably correct. Now, you could say, well, thanks to airplanes and loose migration policies, now the fight is already in Europe and in America and in Canada and elsewhere around the world, in Australia. And it's true. In many ways, jihadism has slipped through the wire and is now infiltrating and invading the entire free world. But Israel is the place in the Middle East where that battle continues and where ultimately it will be resolved for a number of reasons. First of all, in this land, which is the homeland of the indigenous people who are the Jews, in this land, the Jews have an ancient historical claim because, well, we Jews have been here for thousands and thousands of years. And we are the only indigenous population that remains here since those thousands of years. There were other indigenous populations here, of course. There were Canaanites, there were, other people who lived on this land thousands and thousands of years ago, right? Nabateans, you name it. But they are long gone. Right? Chalcoliths, many, many millennia before that. So Jews are the only remaining indigenous population of this land that have been here for thousands of years, like, more than 3,000 years. And Jerusalem is 3,000 years old, right? So, and Jerusalem was obviously after, long after Jews and Hebrews before them, which are the precursors to the Jewish people, obviously going back to Abraham, right? We are the children of Israel, right? Going back all the way to that. And so this land is clearly our land, right? But it doesn't mean it can't be shared. And we do share it, right? Currently, about 22% of Israel's population are Israeli Arabs, most of whom are Muslim, and some of whom are Christian and other faiths, or lack thereof, right? And most of the Muslims here are Sunni, and there's a smattering of Shia here and there, but the overwhelming majority are Sunni. And they make up, again, 22% of the population, and they have full equal rights here as any other Israeli citizen. In fact, they have, you can say, well, they have less rights because they don't have the right of return like the Jews do, meaning Arabs who left Israel before 1948, like the land that became Israel in 1948, Arabs who left that land cannot come back to become citizens. Okay. Now, extenuating circumstances may apply. Okay. For example, if an Arab marries a Jew and the wife or the husband that's Jewish wants to make aliyah with their spouse, then yes, the Arab can of course return with that Jew and may or may not be able to attain Israeli citizenship. But if they like have an Israeli family, with Israeli kids and all that, and they're raised Jewish, I think it is in fact possible. But for the overwhelming majority of Arabs who do not marry Jews and who do not become part of the tribe in some closer way, they do not have the right to return. Okay, but on the other side of that, Arabs are not required to serve in the IDF. Okay, Druze are mostly required to serve in the IDF, except for those who obviously physically can't or mentally can't or whatever. But generally speaking, Druze are required to serve in the IDF, and they do with pride and distinction. And they are, in fact, the population, right, the ethnic population in Israel that has the highest percentage of their population, because it's about 150,000 people, the highest percentage of the population that goes into elite combat units, whether they be fighter pilots, tank commanders, commandos, whatever my special forces, whatever they might be, the highest population rate of going into elite combat forces in the IDF is from the Druze population. The Bedouin, who are also not required to serve, are some of the most highly prized soldiers in the IDF, right? The Bedouin Arabs, because they read the ground. They're trackers. They are incredible trackers, better than machines. They can tell you, like how heavy an animal or a person was, and whether they had a limp, and which direction they were walking, and how far they were walking, or were they running or jogging, or how much weight were they carrying versus what their natural weight was, what time they went by, etc., etc. Right? Their skills are highly valued, highly valued, because they're incredible at reading the ground, and they're also very courageous and brave fighters when necessary. But most of the time, thank God, their work involves tracking, and then they get out of harm's way, hopefully, for the most part. But of course, many Bedouins have seen combat. Many, because they're literally hot on the trail of infiltrators from different places, either through the Jordan Valley or the Sinai border, anywhere, right? They track people that cross the borders. Could be even up on the Lebanese border, because Israel has like a perimeter fence pretty much around the whole country, right? And around the perimeter fence, there's like, dirt, sand, whatever, so that it leaves footprints if people walk over it, right? It's a security measure. It's easy to see. Any border in Israel that you approach, you'll see it. It's right there. I'm not sharing any military secrets there. It's very well known. You can see even on Google Maps, right? It's very, very apparent on any part of the border that Israel has with another country. We have in many places where people are likely to walk, like a strip of sand or light soil or whatever it might be, to leave footprints when you walk across it, so that the trackers can tell, they can practice, and also they can see if anybody crossed the border, and they know at what time it was. They can tell you very accurately to within seconds or minutes. It's insane how far away the person is, how fast they were traveling, etc. So the point is, the Arabs do not have to serve, but those that do, right, Israeli Arabs also do not have to serve. Not just Bedouins, but the general Israeli Arab population. Unlike the Druze who do serve, Bedouins and the other Israeli Arabs do not have to serve, but some of them do. And they serve very bravely, very courageously, in an army that they're very proud to serve in. But even those that don't serve have all the same equal rights as the rest of us in Israel. So those are some rights that Israeli Arabs get that the Jewish Arabs and the Druze Arabs actually don't get, right? So keep that in mind, right? We are a nation with, yes, a conscript army. It also has some volunteers. And the volunteers are from the ethnic group that everybody thinks is our, mortal enemy, blah, blah, blah. Except the Israeli Arabs are not our mortal enemy. They're our brothers and sisters. We trust them, just as they trust us. You know, we, yeah, are there social injustices in Israel? Absolutely. Are there things that happen that shouldn't happen between Jews and Arabs in Israel, like Israeli Arabs? Yes, absolutely. There are social injustices. There are inequities that should be righted. For that, we have a court system. We have legal proceedings, and it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. Okay? I'm not going to say that the Israeli justice system is perfect. Absolutely not. Okay? Generally, for the first 50 years or so of Israel's existence, the courts were incredibly highly regarded. The judges were all considered incredibly free of corruption and, had massive distinction among their peers around the world. It can be said that since around 1998, or a bit later, that some justices began doing some shenanigans here and there and began to either politicize the courts or in some cases do corrupt things, but they were tried for those things. Right? And when they were guilty, they were found guilty and punished, proportionally for whatever they did, whether it be a fine or whatever it might be, imprisonment or anything, right? But there aren't many judges you can find in Israel who've been tried and convicted of things because there frankly aren't that many judges that are really corrupt, okay, in Israel. And there are judges who are Jewish and judges who are Christian and judges who are Muslim and judges who are, Arabs and judges who are other ethnic groups. Right? They come from all walks of life. And Israel is a very mixed and diverse country, even though it only has 9 million people or so, 10 million people, a little bit less. It's a very mixed country. Right? It has a lot of different types of people in it, from all kinds of different countries that came here or came back to here from all over the place. So it's a very diverse population. And Israel stands at the gates, if you will, holding back the horde. But again, many of the bad intentioned people who want to do bad things to Israel have slipped through the wire. Very obviously. They are making their way through the Western world, around the world, infiltrating, influencing, changing laws, introducing Sharia courts, etc., etc. By the way, even in Israel, we have Sharia courts in Tel Aviv. Okay? The difference is, in Israel, we're well aware of what that means to have a Sharia court here. And the Sharia courts, yes, they operate under Sharia law, but guess what? They're also beholden to Israeli law. Unlike in other countries where they have their own court system and they're effectively not beholden to the other laws of the country. Here in Israel, they are, which is the difference. And that's why most Israelis don't mind that the Arabs have their own kind of community court for themselves if they want to go to it. Okay? But generally speaking, Israelis, Arabs who, have some issue with whatever it might be, illegal stuff, they can choose just to go to a regular Israeli court. And in many cases, they can't choose because they have to. If it's like a crime or something, then they have to. The only things that Sharia law really supervises are issues that are strictly religious in nature and do not require the proceedings of a criminal or Israeli civil court. And lastly, Israel lifts all boats because very much Israel is a light unto the nations. Think about how many discoveries and advancements have come from this tiny little place. It's not by accident. So Israel is a nation that lifts all boats in the sense of it increases the QOL, the quality of life of all people around the world effectively. Oh, I know you can say, well, that's very debatable. Well, maybe. I'm still going to say it though, because generally speaking, that is accurate. Think about all the scientific advancements, medical advancements, engineering advancements, legal advancements that have happened thanks to Israel. Military advancements, by the way, right? Like drones, Israeli technology, right? Which also translated into commercial technology. Think about how many drones there are being used around the world for commercial reasons. Well, there you go. So Israel is, in fact, a country that, as tiny as it is, outperforms its size by a lot, and helps to lift all boats, all nations, to a higher quality of life. And that ultimately is the purpose of Israel. I mean, it's one of the purposes of Israel, other than to be a nation, a homeland for the indigenous population who are the Jews. But, the higher purpose is to be a light unto the nations, right? To be literally a nation that is a light unto the nations. And it is, in my opinion, very arguable that Israel has actually achieved that already. So, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, hope you have a wonderful day. And I bid you peace. Shalom.